opportunity to come here and do service. It's a great honor, a great privilege, and one I don't take lightly. And it's 10 o'clock here in New York, and this actually works out good. I know you wouldn't think it by looking at my face, but I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I know I don't look old enough to have a 2-year-old daughter, but I have a 2-year-old daughter, and thank God she's sleeping right now because she's the original Zoom bomber. She's hijacked a few meetings in the past, so thankfully she's fast asleep right now. A lot of times I usually Zoom from my car, and people have said to me, Paul, you're sober a long time and you're back living in your car, and I always say, well, the good news is it's a better car, you know what I mean? So if you're new there tonight, just think of it, stay sober, and if you go homeless, at least you're going to have a better car when you do, But it's hard. It's hard trying to be funny on Zoom. It's almost like standing in the middle of the graveyard at midnight and telling jokes. You're not really sure if anybody's laughing, But I'm very, very happy to be here. When this first went down, and I'm a great, meetings, we got to be sitting knee to knee, elbow to elbow. I got to look over and see another alcoholic with skin on. How is this going to work? Contempt prior to investigation. And I thought, oh my God, how's this going to work? And now, I'll be honest with you right now, I am so proud to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous at this time. The way that we have made this, it just keeps on going. I love that about Alcoholics Anonymous. The world threw stuff at us, and we just keep on going, reaching out to that alcoholic. We find a way of making it work. And I think from being, which my fear was, oh my God, how is this going to work? To use the words of Churchill, I think this is Alcoholics Anonymous' finest hour. And being connected to people from all over the country, socially distant, but spiritually connected. And even though we're sitting in different places, in different rooms, I feel a connection to you, because I need you and you need me. Without you, there's no me. And for the people that are new, I want to say, there's an old saying down in Texas, come all the way in and sit all the way down. And I would like to offer that to you. I'm a great believer in dropping an anchor in Alcoholics Anonymous, even if it's a virtual anchor. Get right, if you're new, or maybe not so new, get right in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous, stay right in the middle. And, it says in chapter 4 in our literature, it uses that term about the flat earth, Years ago, people believed in the flat earth theory. And in some regards, AA is a flat earth. If you go to the edge, you go off, And the thing about going to the edge of Alcoholics Anonymous, you're almost at the edge before you realize you're even there. So just stay here right in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous, because Alcoholics Anonymous, as far as I'm concerned, the whole program, the whole fellowship is predicated on helping the next alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous without the newcomer, it's just a room full of noise. It makes no sense to me. The whole program, the whole thing is predicated on helping the next alcoholic. I think AA is like a backwater pond. It needs fresh water. If it doesn't get fresh water, it becomes stagnant. And nothing grows in stagnant water. I die, you die. What's the point? And I'll be honest with you, I never took sobriety for granted. I was always very grateful to be sober. Every day I wake up in the morning grateful. But I took AA for granted. I just figured AA was always here, like oxygen. It was always here, And you hang around here a little bit and you realize, that I'm so blessed to be born in a time and a place that is Alcoholics Anonymous. That in August of 1992, on the worst night of my life, there was a room for me to walk into. And there was a firm handshake at the door. There was 12 steps, 12 traditions. It didn't mean nothing to me. And it was a place for me to get well. All to do is sit down and get sober, And this time right now, our birthday is June 10th, which is coming up. And it should be, it's not Mother's Day. That was the day that Bill Wilson first met Dr. Bob. But Dr. Bob would drink again and on a trip to Atlantic City. So right now, at this moment in time in 1935, Dr. Bob was drunk. And your life and my life hung by a thread. People say, well, if it hadn't been Bill and Bob, it would have been John and Jim. Well, it wasn't. Talk about that window of opportunity. The window of opportunity came round in the spring of 1935. And Bill Wilson, to his credit, didn't go back to New York and say, forget this guy. He stayed with him. helped him get detox, sobered him up up in the top room of his house. And June 10th, Alcoholics Anonymous was born. The greatest spiritual movement in the history of civilization for people like us. And there's been people like us since man first crushed grapes. We were society's first outcasts. I ran at life with drink. I ran away from life with drink. And thank God I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, and there was Alcoholics Anonymous. And I found out everything I needed to know. I found out at my first meeting. My name is Paul, and I'm an alcoholic, because that tells me who I am and what I am and where I am and what I need to be doing. And maybe if you're new there tonight, those 12 steps that were read and how it works in the 12 traditions seem like a foreign language. I understand that. But the wonderful thing about Alcoholics Anonymous will meet you where you are. You don't have to meet Alcoholics Anonymous. It will meet you exactly where you are. My friend tells a great story, my dear friend that's on the meeting right now. He was at a meeting years ago over here in Brooklyn, not too far from here. And about 20 minutes into the meeting, a woman came into the meeting. And she was visibly drunk, sort of making a little racket and bumping into people. And they stopped the meeting and asked her to sit down, and someone came over and says, just sit quietly, the meeting's in progress, here's a cup of coffee, and someone will talk to you after the meeting. So she sat there, and about another 20 minutes go by into the meeting, and lo and behold, a guy comes in, and he's visibly drunk. And he comes in, and he happens to be happenstance, is it odd or is it God? He happens to sit across from this woman. And this woman's sober 20 minutes. And she leans across to him and says, you know what? If you sit quietly, she went and got him a cup of coffee, give him the cup of coffee and says, if you sit quietly, someone will talk to you after the meeting. I mean, that's Alcoholics Anonymous personified. She's 20 minutes sober. Her experience, strength, and hope at 20 minutes sober is, if you sit quietly and drink your coffee, someone will talk to you after the meeting. And that's what she shared with this guy. And that's what Alcoholics Anonymous will do. It'll meet you exactly where you are. And maybe that stuff we read seems like we have a symbol in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a triangle inside a circle. And there's 3 parts to it. Unity, service, and recovery. And I believe from your very first meeting in Alcoholics Anonymous, whether it be a virtual meeting, we can do unity. And what does unity look like? We do together what I can't do alone. Many meetings make it easy, few make it hard, none make it impossible. I need you and you need me. Without you, there will be no me. If I'm doing AA alone, I'm not doing AA. What's the old joke? I'm doing BB. What's BB? I don't know, but it's not AA. I need the unity of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's one lifeboat, and it's called AA. My disease would tell me, get your own lifeboat. My disease might even tell me, swim to shore. You can make it. No, I need to be right in the lifeboat of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's none of my business who's sitting next to me. That's God's business. It's my business that I'm willing to help that person or be helped by that person. For that, I am responsible. Service. There's a guy who used to speak that passed away, used to say, the highest pay grade in Alcoholics Anonymous is servant. Why? Because I am shackled to self. So it's hard to do it here. We used to say, if you put away one more chair than the one you sat on, congratulations, you're doing service. Find some way of doing service in Alcoholics Anonymous, even in this virtual setting. Try to stay tethered to Alcoholics Anonymous so you don't go to the edge of the flat earth. And recovery, maybe those 12 steps seem like a foreign concept. We have slogans, easy does it, live and let live, one day at a time. They were like the banisters to the steps. And then eventually I was able to get into that program, with your help. And I know you're maybe sitting out there tonight if you're new and maybe you're in a tough spot, and I understand that. You hear that old saying, you go 10 miles into the forest, you got to go 10 miles out. I don't care how deep and how dark and how painful the forest you're in is. A tells me, and I'll tell you, you're just 12 steps away from a new life. 12 steps away from a brand new life in Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous is the only place I know where you can live two lives in one lifetime, you know. And I'm not here to sell Alcoholics Anonymous tonight. It sells itself. Alcoholics Anonymous is attraction, not promotion. But what I will tell you, and I don't mean cash and prizes, you cannot get where I am tonight from where I came from without Alcoholics Anonymous. It's an impossible journey. And why do I continue to come to Alcoholics Anonymous? I know how the movie goes, but I wouldn't miss it to see somebody else walking into AA on the worst night of their life and be given the grace not to take a drink for one day at a time. And it's so much more than grace, it's mercy. And the definition of mercy that I like the best is the complete reversal or upheaval of the laws of nature. You know, that's the miracle that's working in my life tonight. You know, I should be drunk tonight and I'm not. Now, how did that happen? It happened because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And these people entered into the chaos of my life of August of 1992, when everybody, and there wasn't many, was going that way. The only people coming this way was Alcoholics Anonymous. And they carried this message. My message mightn't even keep me sober. And what is the message of Alcoholics Anonymous? When complete defeat through alcohol, step one, I got a body that won't let me drink and a mind that won't let me stop. One drink creates a thirst I can't quench. When I control my drinking, I don't enjoy it. And when I enjoy my drinking, I can't control it. With your help, I haven't had a drink since August of 1992. One drink tonight, destination unknown. These people, with the help of God in this program, in this fellowship, took me from a place of powerlessness, unmanageability, not to a place in step 12 where I'm powerful, but a place where I have access to power. It brought me from the problem through the process to the solution, where I'm sitting here today, as I said, not cash and prizes, but you can't get where I am today from where I came from without Alcoholics Anonymous, you know. So I'm very, very blessed to be sitting here sober tonight. I don't know why I'm an alcoholic. To tell you the truth, I don't care. If God was to come down out of the New York sky here tonight and sit next to me and tell me exactly why I'm an alcoholic, I don't think anything would really change in my life. Hopefully I'd wake up tomorrow morning, still say my prayers, make the calls, take the calls, go to meetings. But I was to speculate. You know, Carl Jung, there was a great friend of Alcoholics Anonymous, said that alcoholism can be characterized as a low-grade spiritual thirst. There was something not right with me. You know, even before I took drink, I had that stone in the shoe feeling. You know, I had that knot in the stomach. I was a bit of a chronic people pleaser. And I took that first drink. You know, most people, I bartended the last 5 years drinking, and I bartended the first 12 in AA. Most people drink because what alcohol does to them. Our book talks about it. A social lubricant, fired imagination, you know. I drink because alcohol does something for me. One drink changes how I feel about me, you, and this. And it's so simple. People say, why did I drink? I'll tell you why I drank. I drank because it worked. It worked from the very first drink. It worked till it didn't work anymore. And then I end up with the jumping off places to talk about, which I'll mention in a bit. But it worked. I don't realize it's working. It's filling in holes I didn't even know I had. It's taking the stone out of the shoe. I can be everything I think you want me to be. And for a chronic people pleaser, it's a magic elixir. But boy, talk about it being a rapacious creditor. If you'd have told me where I was going to be 15 years later, I'd say you're out of your mind. But alcohol, man, it'll take your job, your car, your wife, the shirt off your back. But what it really wants is me 6 feet under. There's a lot of terminal diseases out there. I'm not familiar with those, but I'm familiar with this one. This disease will kill me stone dead. But you couldn't have told me that when I was starting out. Booze was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself, you know. Bill Wilson tells a story, not in a story in the big book, but in a letter that he wrote. He was at a party one night. This is when he was shipping out to World War I. And you ever seen pictures of Bill Wilson? He's 6'3", skinny, gangly. He's at this party. He's like a wallflower back against the wall. He feels socially awkward, and he feels like he's being dragged over and introduced to people. And then he says, someone give him a drink. And he took that drink. And instead of him being introduced to people, it felt like people being introduced to him. I get that. I took that first drink, and my life went from black and white to color like that. And I thought to myself, this is it. And as I said there, I hitched my wagon to a star called alcohol, and I rode it to the precipice. I wouldn't let another man do to me what I allowed my drink to do to me. I wouldn't allow it. But you couldn't have told me that starting out. But looking back on it, the writing was on the wall. I started drinking within 6 months. At 15 years of age, I was getting my stomach pumped out on a school night. And they told my parents that I hadn't got to me to hospital and I'd probably died of alcoholic poisoning. Before I'm out of my teens, I'm a daily drinker. Before I'm out of my teens, I'm taking morning drink. Early 20s, my life's falling apart, but I don't want to look in. I'm a finger pointer. I'm into the blame game. Always looking for an outside fix for what's really an inside job. I'm blaming Northern Ireland where I grew up. I grew up there during the Troubles, working class Catholic from the wrong side of the tracks, big chip on my shoulder, and I blamed that, for the reason my life, it was alcohol that was destroying my life. So it's no coincidence I'm sitting in America with an Irish accent. I was a runner, a long distance runner, and off I packed my bag and I came to New York, and it was different. It was worse, and I got a job as a bartender here in New York, and I used to work in a crazy bar. And I worked in a bar. It's quite sad, actually. I worked in a bar from 6 o'clock at night to 4 in the morning. I could drink behind the bar. At the end of my drinking, I couldn't even get there. Fears and phobias and hang-ups. What's the old saying in AA? Booze give me the wings to fly, and then it took away the sky. By the time I'm 25, I'm hitting hospitals, convulsions, seizures, round-the-clock drunks, locked up for drinks, strapped down for drink, and it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse. But for the people that are new, thank God sobriety's progressive too. And as far down as you go with drink, you can come back up in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not going to sit here tonight like some snake oil salesman and promise you the moon and the stars. There's things I lost through drinking and they never came back. And there's things you might have lost through drinking and they might not come back either. Thank God for this program. Who among us could live with the guilt and the shame and remorse of our drinking if it wasn't for the 12 steps to alleviate that? I wasn't a sociopath. I knew the bridges I burned, the damage I did, and the people I walked away from. I can't change the past with this program, but I was able to change my perception of the past and be free of my past because of the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the ironic thing about this disease, the worst years of my drinking, well, I hope they were the worst, 27 to 30, were after I made a firm conviction not to drink anymore. But here's the problem. You know what AA gave me that I never had before? It gave me something between me and the first drink. I never had anything between me and the first drink. I would come out of a hospital or a bad drunk, and I would vow that I wouldn't drink again, but I would drink again because I had nothing between me and the first drink. I'm sitting here tonight. I don't know about tomorrow, but tonight, because of your help. People say, oh, you're just an arm's length away from a drink. I'm 12 steps away from a drink. And that's a quantum leap when I first walked in here. But don't get me wrong. They're not 12 steps up to anything. They're 12 steps down to humility. I've seen people drink again in AA that I thought would never drink again. And that tells me it's a daily reprieve, not a pardon. And there's certain things I must do to enjoy this way of life. The only way that I coast in AA is downhill, and a friend of mine drank after a long time in AA. He says, you know how you get drunk in AA? You give those steps back one step at a time. Take your will back in 3. Become insane in 2. So insane you tell yourself you're not an alcoholic and get drunk in the first step. Today, I don't know about tomorrow, but today I'm in that safe place that our book talks about. But I had a bit more drinking to do. And here's the thing I want to for anybody to do. I almost went to the graveyard thinking I had a drinking problem. A drinking problem is solved by not drinking. Our book gives a couple of examples of that too. A medical reason, a romantic reason, a change of environment. And those people can stop or even moderate. But then it talks about us. I don't have a drinking problem. I have alcoholism. And that's a horse of a different color. Yes, it's physical, but it's also mental and spiritual. If my problem is just alcohol, I just need the first half of the first step and I'll live happily ever after. I need the other 11 and a half steps to help me do what I can't do drunk or sober. And that's live out there in God's world, one day at a time, under his conditions rather than my demands. And I'll give you one vignette that just sums this up. I'm on a bad drunk one time, and to cut a long story short, I'm in a bar in the middle of the night. I was getting drink, and I collapsed on the floor in an alcoholic seizure. And I woke up in the local hospital, which I had been in before, and they eventually took the restraining cuffs off. And there was somebody standing by the bedside. And I wasn't trying to, with this on again, off again relationship. And I wasn't trying to be cinematic, but I took her hand and I said, it's obvious I can't drink. I know I can't drink. And I will never, ever drink again. That's it. I'm done. It's over. Finished. If I got a contract, I would have signed it with my own blood. There's a friend of mine says, Paul, I'll tell you better. If they put you in a lie detector machine, you would have passed with flying colours. Because I meant it. And at a visceral level, I'm done. It's over. But what does our book say? Self-knowledge is not enough. Just knowing I'm an alcoholic is not going to keep me sober. And I left that hospital. And here's what tells me that I don't have a drinking problem, that I have alcoholism. Here's what happens to me when I try to stop drinking without unity, service, and recovery, without a fellowship and a sponsor and a home group and 12 steps and a higher power of my own making. Here's what happens to me when I go toe-to-toe with this disease. I left that hospital convinced that I would not drink again. A week goes by, and I got a week. I get this stone in my shoe. I don't know where it came from, but it's there all the time. 2 weeks go by, and I got 2 weeks. I've got this knot in my stomach. I don't know where it came from, but it's there all the time. 3 weeks go by. The top button of my shirt feels tight all the time. A month goes by. It feels, not saying it is, it feels like everybody's on my case. You could fry eggs in the back of my neck. And I drank again. Now, you'd have put me in any machine that day that I drank before I took that first drink. You put me on a machine, you would not have found a trace of alcohol in my body. And I drank again. And I submit to you, that's not a drinking problem, that's a living sober problem. And that's what I love about Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous is so weighted towards the solution. We only mention the problem in the first half of the first step, alcohol. We get right past that, alcohol, and we move right 11 and a half steps designed for the solution. I love that about AA. We don't stay rooted in the problem. We move towards the solution with the 11 and a half steps. I didn't have that. Up in this moment in time tonight, I have never beaten an obsession to drink. And I've got into the ring many times. It's like getting in the ring with a heavyweight champion. A child could say, don't get in the ring. But don't get in the ring means don't take the first drink. And I don't know how not to take the first drink. So I get back in the ring and I tell myself, like I just said, the epitaph of the alcoholic. It'll be different this time. I'll watch it. It was her. It was this. It was that. And I take the first drink and I'm off in the well-known spree that doctors' opinion talks about in our big book. And this happened not once, over and over and over again. And as I said, I wouldn't let another man do to me what I allowed drink to do to me. And I'm here as a sole recipient of an old-fashioned 12-step call. I love when someone's telling their story and it goes down and it goes down and it goes down. And then they say the most spiritual words in an AA qualification. And then I sit up because I know God's coming the next sentence. There's not a person in this room tonight with more than 24 hours sobriety that hasn't had an unnamed moment. And this was mine. I'm on another drunk, and a note came under my door. And it said what I've been hearing since I was 15. Paul, you're a nice guy, but you drink too much. It had two men's telephone numbers on it. Against my better judgment, in fact, everything that's helped me in AA has been against my better judgment. I picked up the phone and I called a complete stranger whose number was on that piece of paper. And they were from the old South Bronx group here in New York. And that group had a mantra: we don't give up on anybody. And they came to my apartment. I didn't go to Skid Row, but I brought Skid Row to me. And they came to my apartment. And I thought they were going to talk about my drinking. Because in August of 1992, everybody seemed to want to talk about my drinking. Hey, Paul, we need to talk about your drinking. Have you got a minute? We really need to talk about. And they came into my apartment and they started talking about their drinking. I kept thinking they're going to turn the tables here, but no. They told story after story after story of their drinking. That beautiful line in Dr. Bob's story when he talks about Bill Wilson visiting him, and he says very succinctly, he talked my language. And that's what these two men did. They talked about them, but I found out about me. And I identified our most powerful possession, identification. I am you and you are me. I identify with these two men. I was too sick to go to a meeting that night, but about 2 days later, I was well enough to get put in a car, bookended in, and get brought to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is about 2 miles up the road from where I am now. And I walked into that meeting. It's a 7:30 open meeting on a Saturday night. I cannot remember one word that was said at that meeting. I can't remember what was read. Was it? I can't. You know what? Who spoke? Male, female? I don't remember one thing about the meeting. But I'll tell you what I do remember. Two men came up to me after the meeting who are still sober here in Rockaway to this day. And they both come up to me independently of each other. And they shook my hand and looked me straight in the eye and says, Paul, if you want to stop drinking, you're in the right place. Now, I had no reason to believe them. They didn't show me any PowerPoint presentation or whatever. They just looked me straight in the eye. But for some reason, I believed them. And I left that meeting that night, and someone met me after the meeting who had heard it all before, the promises and the hand on the heart and never again. And I said to this person, I've found something. I didn't know what it was that night, but I know tonight what it was. It was hope. That's what Alcoholics Anonymous is. In its purest form, Alcoholics Anonymous is hope in human form. People get people sober. God works through people. And the spiritual conduit that he used to save my life was the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. Like Bill Wilson had that divine thought of a chain of drunks, one drunk helping another. And that's what I ask myself today. Even on these conditions, how strong is my link in the chain? Is it strong to the people ahead of me and more importantly, the people behind me? If someone says, Paul, can I comprehend the word serenity? Can I know peace? Absolutely walk this journey with us. And I would like to tell you at that meeting that I took the ball and scored a touchdown. But I came in here with old ideas, barroom mentality. And I carried those old ideas into Alcoholics Anonymous. What does our book say? Let go absolutely of all your old ideas. Now, don't get me wrong. I was doing unity. I was going to plenty of meetings. I was doing service. I said, I'm making more coffee than Juan Valdez. Are you kidding me? But I wouldn't do recovery. The 12 steps just seemed very touchy, very feely. I'm Irish, stoic, don't tell nobody nothing. See, the problem I made with this, don't get me right, a sponsor. But, you can only help somebody that wants to be helped. I looked at the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I looked at it on the wall. And I looked at them as information. Yeah, I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, I need a power greater than myself. God, I need to take an inventory, defects of character, so forth. I looked at them as purely information. I realized tonight, on the other side of this program, that these steps are not informative. They're transformative. That's the mistake I made. They're not information. They're transformative. With the help of a sponsor, when I finally went through that program, you go from step 1 to step 12. You are a different person at step 12, whether you want to be or not. It says in our literature, having had a spiritual awakening, past tense. I didn't get that. Now, don't get me wrong. There were people talking about this. But what's the old Chuck Chamberlain line? You'll eventually hear what you came here to hear, and you'll eventually see what you came here to see. But you have to have eyes to see and ears to hear, and I had neither. I was a closed circuit sitting in AA. Contemporary investigation, that was me. And I bottomed out at 2.5 years sober in AA. I was driving, don't get me wrong, my sponsor was trying to help me, but I was like, my guy came up to me in a meeting one night, who wasn't my sponsor, by the way, and he says, Paul, can I talk to you? I said, sure. He says, you're dying, and you're dying right in the middle of AA. You know what you're like? You're like a starving man at a spiritual banquet. There's all this food on offer, and you're over there living on bread and water. That's exactly what I was doing. I still wasn't convinced. The next day, I'm driving out of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. 6th-lane highway called the Gowanus Expressway. Rush hour traffic, and a guy cut me off. I chased after him in rush hour traffic. I jammed him against the guardrail. I'm blocking 3 lanes of traffic. I get out of the car. I'm out of my mind. I go to the car, and there's an Asian man sitting behind the wheel shaking. His wife's crying in the front seat, and his 3 kids are crying in the back of the car. This is 2.5 years off drink with no program. I've been to jumping off place twice in my life, once with drink and once with no drink and no program. It's a different type of pain, but it's pain nonetheless. I apologized at his door. I got in my car and I said, you know what, I'm crazier off drink than I was on it, and in some respects that's true. And I drove to my sponsor's house in name only, and I told him what I just told you. And he sat back and he says, Paul, will I tell you something? The old George Eliot line, it's never too late to live the life you're meant to live. And we talk about that in Alcoholics Anonymous. We talk about the car crashes and the terrible things that happen to people. No, we don't talk about, because it's hard to measure and observe, is the unlived life. We just drift through life half drunk. You don't know where you're going or why you're going there. And then one day they kick your door in and you're lying there dead and your life came and gone and not much really happened. And he looked at me and says, Paul, if you've been ducking and diving around this program, if you don't get into this program with my help, your life's going to go unlived, even in sobriety, and that's on you, my friend. And against my better judgment, I get into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's hard to let go of old ideas. I'm telling you, there's 330 million people in America. I reckon 10% are alcoholics. That means there should be 33 million people sitting in A alone. And we have just over 2 million worldwide. That tells me that a lot of alcoholics go to the grave either not believing they're alcoholic or not fully accepting what they have to do about it. And that was me. Because it's so hard. Not only do you have to let go of your old ideas, that's hard enough, but you have to say, I'm willing to take on 12 totally radical new ideas. For some people, that's a bridge too far. It's a lot to do that, to throw out the old ideas and take on 12 new ideas. But I was sitting 2.5 years off drink, and my life was completely unmanageable. And thank God, with the help of a sponsor, I started to move through those steps. I was carrying hefty bags full of garbage around. I was carrying stuff around from the schoolyard. And the thing about this disease, you can fool them at the coffee pot at 7 o'clock at night. I've done it. How's it going, Paul? Oh, it's going wonderful. You know, when untreated alcoholism would come to visit me, 2 o'clock in the morning, could-haves, should-haves, would-haves, guilt, shame, remorse, another sleepless night, 2.5 years off drink, because I got me on me. I'm shackled to self and I can't get me off of me. I don't like who I am. And 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is a long time to with somebody you don't like. And I don't like who I am, the man in the mirror. I don't like myself. And I put those steps into my life. I grew up in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. We marched to the streets for freedom. We talked about freedom. We sat in bars singing about freedom. I wouldn't have known freedom would jump up next to me. I'm free tonight, and a big part of that was moving through that program. But I'll tell you, is it nice to do the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and get a full knowledge of your condition? Absolutely. What makes you work and what doesn't work. But you know when my life caught on fire? You know when my life took on new meaning? When I turned around and tried to take another man through the steps. That's when great events came to pass in my life. You know, to watch a fellowship group around you is something you shouldn't miss. You know, and I'm not saying the steps of the panacea for every problem, but they brought me to a point in recovery where I could decide was my work, what's God's work, and you need outside help, let the doctors be the doctors. And I try to stay connected to Alcoholics Anonymous. The book guarantees that you'll have had a spiritual awakening. The key to success in Alcoholics Anonymous, from my point of view, is to stay awake. It's so easy to fall asleep in Alcoholics Anonymous, especially when you've been here a while. You can get inured to the information. Yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah. Go ahead. Tell me about the third step. You know, I was doing the third step when you were still drinking in a bar. It's so easy to go down that spiritual pride road. That's what'll get a guy like me in trouble. I try to stay connected to Alcoholics Anonymous. I try to stay awake in Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, in the course of my job, when I'm a teacher, I'm doing it remotely now. I used to visit children's homes who can't get to school and special education. And I've been going in and out of buildings all day long here in New York. I've been always checking my phone to see if I had a connection. I could have told you within 5 minutes in my working day whether I had a connection on my phone, because maybe the office wants to call me. And I thought to myself, I wonder if I was as quick to check my spiritual connection as I was my phone connection. I'd be in a lot better shape in Alcoholics Anonymous. I can tell you within a matter of minutes whether I have a phone connection. Why don't I check my spiritual connection? And that's what I've been trying to do here during this period we're going through. Trying to stay connected, spiritually connected, trying to stay awake and alert in Alcoholics Anonymous. Because falling asleep in AA is just like driving a car. You don't be asleep for a long time for something really bad to happen. And I feel very blessed, you know. I mean, my life here in AA, you know, a lot of it I see now, you know, I'm sober a while. I've lived long enough, and what's the old story? Life is lived forward but understood backwards. And sobriety's like that too, you know. And I can see, like, God was always there. That spiritual connection. God was always there. There's a retreat house upstate New York, and it says on the doormat, "You feel far from God, who moved?" It's always me, even in sobriety, you know. And I look back at my life, even in the drinking days, even when I was lying so drunk on a barroom floor that I couldn't even stand up on my own 2 feet, God was there. Carl Jung says that as well. Bidden or not bidden, God is present. Today, I try to stay aware. There's an old guy dead now in New York used to say, "Kid," I was 30 years of age, "Hey, kid, it's awareness, awareness, awareness," you know. Try to stay awake, try to stay aware, and be aware of the blessings of Alcoholics Anonymous and the gratitude that I have in my life. I'm not going to say here everything's wonderful because you get sober. It's not easy getting sober and staying sober. The only thing harder than living a spiritual life is living an unspiritual life, and I've tried both in and out of AA, and especially early sobriety. It's tough. Who wants to make complete defeat, glass in hand, as the book says? And that roller coaster, it goes up and it goes down. Just don't get off. Stay on. For the people that are new, I believe there's a miracle here with your name on it. Nobody can take it for you, and nobody can take it from you. Come up and get the life you're meant to live before drink took you down a different road. I have went from an unlived life to a life well lived in Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't mean cash and prizes, the things of real value. What's the old Oscar Wilde line, the Irish writer? He said he knew the price of everything and the value of nothing. I know things of real value now. The people I've met in Alcoholics Anonymous, the things that have happened. Look at my life here, you know. I went through difficult times in sobriety. Went through a divorce at 20 years sober. Almost put my head away. Another guy involved. My little daughter would be sitting to me at night crying, I don't want to get divorced, Daddy. I turned to God, my God. Thank God my sponsor and the people in AA helped me get through that. And my sponsor says, Paul, take the high road. I don't want to take the high road. And I'm glad I took the high road. And I'm glad, how can I go? You know what, 20 years sober, spiritual pride, how can I go to my home group and tell them my life's falling apart right in the middle of AA? Believe me, I don't have to do a PowerPoint presentation, but somebody has to know what's going on in my life one day at a time. I found it the hard way in AA. If you're going through something alone in AA, it's because you want to. There's not one thing in this world, thank God, that I have to go through alone. Because I've found the greatest fellowship of the history of, on the face of this earth. The people I've met in AA, some of the greatest people you'd ever want to meet. So don't go through something alone. Stay connected. Stay here with us in Alcoholics Anonymous. And the life that AA has given me, 2 lives in 1 lifetime. I don't romance booze like Dr. Bob and his story. I don't romance booze anymore. I don't think about the good old days. I think about the last days. You know, I had my drinking privileges and they were taken away from me before I took my own life. God intervened. When I think about drink, I think about it's always November, it's always raining, it's always miserable, and I'm sitting in an apartment drinking around the clock against my own will with my head in my hands saying, what the hell has happened in my life? That's where I'll go back to. And that guy that took me there once before didn't move back down because I'm here. He's still here, right now. People say, oh, my disease is in the parking lot doing push-ups. Not my disease. It's been at every meeting I've been at and it's heard everything I've heard. And the thing about leaving AA, it's never it's never like a 180 turn. It's usually a drift, a glacial drift. And you just drift away from AA if you're on the edge of the flat earth again. But tonight, right here, right now, with you people, I'm right in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous, you know. I'm the first person in my family to get sober. My brother's got 22 years now back in Northern Ireland. The chain has been broken. It's been alcoholism in my family as far as the eye can see. But I'm sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. And why am I sober? And the guy 2 stools down drank himself to death? I don't know. I don't have security clearance for that information. That's above my pay grade. But I know what I must do. What Alcoholics Anonymous has only ever asked me to do one thing, is to be responsible for my hand to be out for the still sick and suffering alcoholic. There was somebody at the door for me, I'd better be at the door for somebody else, even if it's a virtual door. I know we're getting near the end of the time. I'd like to leave you a few words that sums up how I feel about you and how I feel about Alcoholics Anonymous. And in these times, I don't want to speak for Rockaway Beach, New York City AA, but I will right now. I want to wish you guys well in Arizona. I hope you're safe and sober. And I hope before very long we're sitting back knee to knee, elbow to elbow. But I thank you for inviting me into your group tonight. And I'd like to leave you with the Irish blessing. It sums up how I feel about you and how I feel about Alcoholics Anonymous. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thank you so much, everyone. That's all I'll say. And the thing about leaving AA, it's never it's never like a 180 turn. It's usually a drift, a glacial drift, and you just drift away from AA if you're on the edge of the flat earth again. But tonight, right here, right now, with you people, I'm right in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous, you know. I'm the first person in my family to get sober. My brother's got 22 years now back in Northern Ireland. The chain has been broken. It's been alcohols in my family as far as the eye can see. But I'm sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. And why am I sober? And the guy 2 stools down drank himself to death? I don't know. I don't have security clearance for that information. That's above my pay grade. But I know what I must do. What Alcoholics Anonymous has only ever asked me to do one thing, is to be responsible for my hand to be out for the still sick and suffering alcoholic. There was somebody at the door for me, I'd better be at the door for somebody else, even if it's a virtual door. I know we're getting near the end of the time. I'd like to leave you a few words that sums up how I feel about you and how I feel about Alcoholics Anonymous. And in these times, I don't want to speak for Rockaway Beach, New York City AA, but I will right now. I want to wish you guys well in Arizona. I hope you're safe and sober. And I hope before very long we're sitting back knee to knee, elbow to elbow. But I thank you for inviting me into your group tonight. And I'd like to leave you with the Irish blessing that sums up how I feel about you and how I feel about Alcoholics Anonymous. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thank you so much, everyone. That's all I'll say.